Good morning, everybody. Today we're still talking about two-step equations, but we're talking about two-step equations with rational, and this is rational numbers. Okay, so I've already filled in the notes, and I'm going to go over this later on. I'll put a board up to show you what all these are, just in case you can't read them very well. So, equations with rational numbers can be solved just like any equation, but you must follow the rules for integer operations. Now, when you were in class this week, I told you that we're kind of going back to what we did at the first of the year, and that's adding and subtracting integers and multiplying and dividing them. Okay, and we were a little confused, some of us, I believe, on, or maybe we had forgotten some of the things that happen when we add and subtract and when we multiply and divide. So we're going to go over it, and we're going to see these in equations, and we're going to learn maybe a new way to look at the equations. So let's start with adding integers. Okay, so if the two values have the same sign, okay, then add and use the same sign. Now, we learned this from the beginning of the year. So a positive plus a positive number, okay, so like 6 plus 5, well, we just add those, right? So it's 11, and that's a positive 11, okay? So that's just normal math, okay? Anytime you add two positive numbers, the answer is positive, okay? A negative plus a negative, well, that equals a negative. Okay, so negative 6 plus negative 5. Okay, well, that you just add the numbers. So add 5 and 6, which is 11, and then just carry the sign with it. Okay. All right, so if they have the same sign, we're just adding and carry the sign. If the signs are different, then subtract and take the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. So just subtract and take the sign of the larger number. Okay? So an example, 6 plus negative 5, well, 6 is greater, so we know that this is going to be a positive. Okay? We know this is going to be a positive. And then we have negative 5. Well, I just subtract 6 minus 5, okay, which is 1. 6 was greater, so it's positive. All right, another example, negative 6 plus 5. Well, the larger number is 6, so I'm just going to carry the negative. Okay, and then seeing they are different signs, I got to subtract them. So 6 minus 5 gives me 1, negative 1. Okay, this is going from back at the beginning of the year. So let's look at subtracting. All right, so it says rewrite the problem to add the opposite, then follow the rules for adding integers. Okay, so if you remember, we talked about SCC, okay, which means that first number stays the same. Okay, we're going to change the subtraction to addition, and then we will change the sign of the second number. So when it's talking about rewrite the problem to add the opposite, well, we're just adding the inverse. Okay, and we've talked about the inverse operations when we're talking about equations. So the inverse of a positive number is a negative. All right, so let's look at an example. 6 minus 7, well, we're going to change that and then change the sign. So that's what we get. We get 6 stays the same. We change subtraction to addition, and we change that 7 to a negative 7. Okay? So now we're opposite signs. So different signs, we subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So 7 is my larger, negative 7. So my answer is going to be negative. And then 7 minus 6 is 1. Okay? So 6 minus 7 is equal to -1. Now, we talked about this in class, okay? And I told you, we'll look at this next example. Okay, I told you that subtracting a number is the same thing as adding that negative. Okay, I told you that when we were starting these equations. Okay, because I told you you should start looking at it like this when we're doing equations. Okay, instead of writing it like this. Okay, so we've already talked about how this -9 minus 11 is the same thing as -9 plus -11. Okay? These are the same. So for this one, okay, we have -11, so we're going to keep -9 the same, change the subtraction to addition, okay, and change that 11 to a -11. The signs are the same, so we will add those two together. So 9 plus 11 is 20, and then we'll just carry the negative. Okay. All right, now the next one. You're not going to see this in an equation. Okay, you're not going to see it from me. Okay. You're not going to see an equation that has minus a negative number. Okay, it's just going to be minus a number. But just for the sake of practicing, we got -3 minus -8. -3 stays the same. We change the subtraction to addition, and we change the sign of the second number. So this -8 goes to a +8. Okay, because we got to change that sign from a negative to a positive. Now, again, we have different signs. So when we have different signs, we subtract. So 8 minus 3 is 5. And we carry the sign of the larger number. So 8 is the larger number, so it's a positive. Okay. Okay. So we're going to move on to multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, so when we're doing equations, we will be multiplying and dividing possibly by negative numbers. Okay, and positive numbers. So this top one just says multiply or divide two numbers. Okay, if the signs are the same, then the answer is positive. Again, we've talked about this in class. So a positive times a positive, positive. Okay, we know that. This is how we started learning multiplying and dividing. Now, when we introduce negatives, negative times a negative, okay, is positive. So when we multiply or divide, if we're adding or dividing and they're the same sign, the answer is always going to be positive. So 6 times 5 is 30. -6 times -5 is also 30. Okay, so it's going to be positive. If the signs are different, then the answer is negative. Okay, it does not matter which number is the largest, okay, the absolute value. If they are different signs, your answer is always negative. Okay, so a positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, now this sheet is wrong. It's got negative times negative. Well, negative times negative is positive. So negative times a positive. Okay. A negative times a positive is negative. All right, so 6 times -5, -30. -6 times 5 is -30. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is just pause the video, and I want you to try to do 1, 2, 6, and 7 by yourself real quick, okay? Okay, that should have been enough time for you. All right, now, so let's look at number 1. All right, so we're just practicing these, okay? It's stuff we should already understand, okay? And it's something that we've talked about, and hopefully you've retained it. So in this case, the first one, I'm adding, and there are two negative numbers. So if I'm adding integers, the same sign, I add and use the same sign. So all I'm going to do is add 6 and 19, which should be 25, and then carry the negative. So negative 25. Okay, let's look at number 2. 5 minus 32. Well, I'm subtracting integers. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite to add the opposite, or I can remember it as SCC. So I got 5 will stay the same, change my subtraction to addition, and then change the sign of the last one. So this is a positive 32, so it's going to be negative 32. So 5 plus negative 32. And then I'll have to go back up to adding integers. So they have different signs. I subtract 32 minus 5 is 27. Okay, and I carry the sign of the larger number. Well, 32 is larger than 5, so it's a negative. Okay, let's look at number 6. I'm multiplying here, so I'm going to go to this box. When I multiply and they have different signs, then the answer is negative. So I already know that my answer is negative. Different signs. Like I have a negative 14 times a 3. It's going to be negative, and then 14 times 3 is 42. Okay. Number 7, I'm dividing. Well, here I am. Multiply and divide. If they signs are different, well, I have a negative and a positive, so they're different. My answer is going to be negative. So I know I have a negative. So I have 24 divided by 4, which gives me 6, and it's a negative 6 because it's different signs. Okay. All right, so let's go over a few of these. Okay, this top one, I know it's a little bit out of whack, but a little bit blurry, but it is negative 4k plus 9 equals 32. Okay, so we're going to solve it just like we normally would. Okay, this is a two-step equation. All right, so the first thing we want to do is undo addition or subtraction. So I have an addition, so I'm going to undo that with subtraction. I'm going to do the inverse of that. So I'm going to bring my negative 4k down. Okay, 9 minus 9 is 0. 32 minus 9 will give me 23. Okay, now when I get here, I'm going to do well, what we're doing here is multiplication. So remember, anytime you have a coefficient and a variable, you're multiplying between the two. Now, this is negative 4k equals 23. So when we do the opposite of multiplication, we divide. So we want to take the negative with that 4. Okay, so these will be 1, and we've talked about 1 times the numbers itself, so we're really just left with k. Okay. All right, now I'm going to take 23 divided by negative 4, and that should give me negative 5.75. Okay. And this is what it's going to look like when you put it in your calculator. Okay, 23 divided by negative, right there's your negative on your calculator, 4. There's your negative 5.75. Now, if you remember, we talked about checking. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite my equation. Oh, that's equals. Sorry. 32. Okay, I'm going to place this value that I have for k into my expression. So remember, this is multiplication. So I'm going to put parentheses around this. Okay, that's showing that I'm placing this value in for k, and I know when I have a number in parentheses, that's multiplication. All right, so now, once I get over here, I'm going to follow the order of operations. So I'm going to multiply first. So I'm going to take my negative 5.75, and I'm going to multiply it. Oh, sorry, I hit addition. I'm going to multiply it by negative 4. Okay, so before I hit enter, I have a negative times a negative. What will my answer be? My answer is going to be positive. Okay? Positive 23. Okay, now I have 23. I'm going to bring down my other constant is 9. Okay, and that's plus 9. So 23 plus 9, well, let's just make sure. 23 plus 9 is 32. Okay, so this is what excuse me. This is how you're going to solve, and this is how you check. Okay? Let's go on down to number 12. Okay, then we'll go back and look at number 10. It's time to change classes. All right, so first thing, we're going to undo addition or subtraction. So I have it minus 10, so I got to add 10. Okay, so I'm left with negative 2x is equal to, well, 15 plus 10 is 25. Okay, I got to take that negative 2, I got to take that sign with it and divide each side. Okay, so all I'm left with is a positive x. So 25 divided by negative 2, well, that's a positive and a negative, so my answer should be negative, and that is 12.5. So negative 12.5. Okay. Now let's go ahead and do number 10. We're on 18 minutes, so okay. So we have x divided by 2. All right, so if this is in your Google Classroom on your assignment, it's going to look like x slash 2, okay? And it's going to be minus 14. We want to undo the subtraction or addition. So this is subtraction, so we're going to add 14 to both sides. Okay, we still have x divided by 2. Okay, that's 0. 20 plus 14, that's 34. Okay. Now, we need to, this is division, and to undo division, we have to do the opposite operation, which is multiplication. So we're going to multiply by 2, x is equal to, should be 68. Okay. Now, we're going to take the value that we got for x, and we're going to check it. All right, so I'm just going to rewrite it pretty quickly because we're getting low on time. All right, I want to place this 68 in for 2, or for x, sorry. So we have 68 divided by 2 is 34 minus 14 equal to 20. 34 subtract 14 is 20. So 20 is equal to 20. Okay? Now your assignment today will be pretty short, I guess. I don't know, maybe 5-10 questions. Okay? We're still doing the same thing, but we just needed to go over and revisit the steps we take when we add, subtract, multiply, and divide integers. Okay? So complete your assignment for today. If you need any help, send me an email or a comment, and I will get to you just as soon as I see it. Remember, we are AB schedule, so it will take me a while to get back to you, okay, later in the day. So have a good day and get started on your assignment.